As the panelists were watching, I have Professor Colin Sodote, I have Ahmednasir Abdullahi, constitutional lawyer, as well as Charles Kanjama. Ahmednasir says it's like a movie, and Charles says it's quite dramatic. So let's get their quick opinions on this. First things first. To Professor Odote, do you see this as having been a journey worth the while?
You know, reflecting on the process, if you go back to the start and reach at the end, it boils down to a statement I was saying off air, that, and I think it's the Honorable Duale who made the statement, that politicians, by their very nature, are extremely deceitful people. Because it is their deceit that has taken us to where we are 4 years later. Because if you look at what originally was communicated to Kenyans as to be done, and what eventually we've ended up to be, you'll tell yourself that the 4 years were not worth it.
Originally, it was communicated to be something for the better of Kenya that is divided.
Exactly. And if you look, and I'll just pick two things that I think for me are important. Number one is if you pick the 7-point agenda and look at them, the 7-point agenda were essentially communicating problems that Kenyan had, number one. Number two, if you look at the first report that was released at Bomas, the report talked about constitutional reforms, yes, but it talked about policy, legal and administrative issues. I remember reading that first report. A lot of the things it was saying that let us focus on the software of Kenya and not the hardware. That software of Kenya is about what is it that is Utu for us, a conversation that this country needs and we should have done. But after that, what did we do? We turned everything. When you ask us the first question, you said, is the BBI bill dead? The BBI bill is the constitutional amendment bill. That wasn't, in my understanding, what the entire process was supposed to be about. But because the politicians are by their nature deceitful, they took us on a 4-year run of a completely different thing.
Ahmednasir, do you share the sentiments? Was this a waste of time?
I mean, it was complete waste of time and resources. I mean, I think we need first to get the perspective what BBI was all about. I mean, BBI had nothing to do with ordinary Kenyans. It was not for me, it was not for you. BBI was a political enterprise of two individuals. I mean, they took a high-stake gamble. Uhuru and Raila thought that nobody matters except the two of them. Uhuru thought that if Raila, you know, keeps quiet about what he does or gives him a wink, he will get his way. Raila, on the other hand, thought that through Uhuru, he can achieve what he wants. So it was basically a conspiracy of two persons. I mean, there was nothing in it for me. There was nothing in it for the people I know. It was for two individuals. And I've said this many times, and I repeat it. BBI was one of the most radical attempts to reconfigure Kenya. It has never happened. It has never happened. Such an in-depth surgery of the basic, you know, structure of the country. I mean, where have you seen in the world an initiative that creates 70 constituency? You don't give IEBC, and the president, through a personal fiat, occasionally consulting Raila, decides where those 70 constituencies will go. Is it 30% of all parliamentary seats? I mean, it was too radical for me. I mean, the Kenyan people were not consulted. We don't know how it came about. The president appointed, you know, some sidekicks of his to undertake this process. And that's why I said, you know, actually, I mean, there was no chance of such a process, you know, succeeding in court. And of course, the two appellate courts, you know, went through the judgment of the High Court. It is the High Court that they give a lot of credit because it went through uncharted water. But any reasonable lawyer will tell you that an initiative where a president on his own starts funds when Parliament has not provided budget for it to the tune of 20 billion, I think, will have zero chance of success when a reasonable, independent judge scrutinizes it. And I'm surprised that people talk, you know, has reggae stopped, has the court. I mean, there is no other option that was open to any of the courts that have interrogated this process.
Right.
Yes.
And Charles, I mean, someone will say, surely you can't throw out the baby with the